Thank you for joining the City of Kingston's Common Council at our special finance meeting around the budget, Kingston Police Department. Today is Monday, November 2nd. My name is Andrea Shaw, the Council President and Organizer for our virtual meetings. Before we begin, we would like to go over a few guidelines to help us navigate the system as efficiently and respectfully as possible. We ask that members of the public and press remain muted and off camera for the length of the meeting. As organizer, I reserve the right to mute anyone who unmutes themselves. Council members and city staff will control their own mute button. Good practice would be to mute yourself if you are not speaking to avoid background noise and feedback. If a council member or staff wishes to speak, they will raise their hands. The chairperson will call on them before they speak by stating their name clearly for our audio listeners. All of our meetings are recorded. Both video and written transcriptions will be made available to the public on the city's website. Although we will not have public speaking tonight, you could sign up to speak at our council meeting by emailing Elisa Tinty, or you could submit written comments by emailing Elisa Tinty at emtinty@kingston-ny.gov, or by dropping them off at the Dropbox located outside the side door of City Hall. We also encourage you to reach out to committee chairs or your ward's representative at any time. If you have any audio issues, send a text message to the following number, 845-594-6120. Please note that phone calls will not be answered during the meeting. Again, the number to text is 845-594-6120. As the organizer, I reserve the right to lock and pause the meeting to eject anyone who has behaved inappropriately. Lastly, at tonight's meeting, we have in attendance Chair Alderman Doug Coop, committee members, Alderman Rennie Scott Childress, Alderman Tony Davis, Alderman Steve Shabbat, Alderwoman Michelle Hirsch, non-voting council members, Alderwoman Rita Worthington, Alderman Jeffrey Ventura Morel, Alderman Patrick O'Reilly, and Alderman Don Tollerman. City staff, we have Comptroller John Toohey, City Clerk Elisa Tinty, Police Chief Tinty, and Lieutenant Mike Bonds. Thank you for your patience during these difficult times. And on behalf of the Common Council, I wish you and your family good health. I now turn the floor to Chair Alderman Doug Coop.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to welcome Chief Tinty and Lieutenant Bonds. Nice to see you again, Mike. And I'd like to especially we have full attendance of the Common Council tonight, which I think is terrific. I'm glad to see all your participation tonight. And you did this last year, and it's nice to see it again. Chief, I'd like to make a brief opening statement, and then to turn the floor over to you to let you make any opening statement you'd like to make before we go at the questions for the committee. But as I see, the bottom line, your budget is a little bit unfavorable. That is, you're spending more than last year of $126,000, and that's made up. The two major pieces are increase in expenditures in personal services, pay, and so forth, and all the things that support that, Social Security, hospitalization, and so forth, and compensated by major reductions in equipment and contracted services. So with that, I'd like to, if you'd like to say anything, Chief, before we go down, as you know, we like to go down line item by line item, and the things that pique the committee's attention, we will ask questions and solicit your response. So I hand it over to you now, Chief.
Well, thank you, everybody, for having us tonight. Again, Mike Bonds is the administrative lieutenant responsible for both the admin work and training in the department. Mike and I have been working together on the budgets many years. I don't even want to tell him how long, Mike. We've been doing this but a long time. This year was certainly a challenge. The issues that presented itself in 2020, certainly for us, one of the greatest hardships that we've experienced is the reduction in the number of officers, sworn officers. I can tell you from the perspective of a police officer employed by this since 1992, we have never been at 69 sworn officers, and that is the lowest we've ever been. So it made things difficult. scheduling. I know over the last few months, really, our experience has been that many members of the public have tried to have us engage with the community more, and we've just fallen short of that because we just don't have the resources that we should have. I really believe that. You'll see that the numbers come back up to 71, essentially pre-COVID numbers. That gives us a little bit of elasticity or flexibility in some scheduling to do a little bit more proactive work. But I do want to point out at one point, I believe it was 2008, the department had 80 members, 80 sworn police officers here serving the city. And we haven't had any major reductions in number of residents, businesses. Our calls for service are still high. And I know that there is a task force now assigned to try to re-envision what community members and residents and business owners want of their police department. This budget is prepared right now and in front of you to continue to do business the way we do. If there's changes next year as a result of this task force, then we may be seeing increases in some accounts. And Alderman Cooper, as you point out, the majority of any increases in this budget really is attributed to the settlement of a 3-year contract that took place at the beginning of 2020. So that contract covers the years of 17, 18, 19, included retro, and those percent increases both in general pay, longevity, college, overtime. All of that is reflective in these new numbers now. Again, we're going into it knowing that the 2020 year is still open for negotiation or contract settlement. The increases only reflect 17, 18, and 19. There has been reductions in equipment. I'll say it this way: we'll do what we can with what we get. We are looking for grants. Everybody's looking for grants. The money's not out there like it used to be, especially for law enforcement. And as we're all aware, it is different times out there for any law enforcement agency. With us, there are many. We're getting pulled in different directions, and we're doing everything we can with what we've got. So I think that's my opening statement. As you mentioned, Alderman Cooper, we'll go through line by line, but I think you'll see that the majority of the increases, any increases, are attributed to contractual obligations that have really affected the personnel costs. Oh, I think you're on mute, Doug.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. The total increase in expenditures, total expenses, is a little over 1%. And I understand all the pressures you're under. Let me just start. I'll just throw out one question first of all, which stands out as a line item 103 increase in regular pay of almost $321,000, but the head count basically stays the same. Is that step increases, or what is happening there?
Are you directing? Is the question directed at the 101 regular pay? The 320,000?
I'm talking about line item 101, regular pay.
Correct. So from the 2020 revised budget, there was a reduction in the manpower from 71 to 69. The 2021 budget shows us 71 sworn officers and the increases that came with the contractual obligations through that interest arbitration. That's where the bulk of that increase is.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And you're correct. I mean, not to negate the fact that there are officers that are getting step increases. Contractually, they get step increases from 1 year to 2 to 3, and so on, up until they reach the maximum increase of for their regular pay.
John Toohey, please.
Nope, can't hear you, John.
Can't hear you, John. John, we cannot hear you.
And Doug, just to clarify,
let's give John a minute to sort this out if we can. It's important we hear him.
this talking about the
Very choppy.
now.
The delay is gone now, John, but it's very hard to understand. You think you could call in? Leave this call in?
And try it again. No.
Sounded like he said it's Friday night and he's heading out. While we're waiting on that, hey, can you make sure that the chief isn't so shy tonight?
Hello, John. It looks like your caller.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
All right. I'm going to turn down the volume on my computer here. Sorry, this is the first time I've had issues with the connection. So I just wanted to reiterate the point that Chief Tinty was making about the salaries, just so there's no confusion. The 2020 budget, the year that we're currently in, those salaries were based upon the contract that expired December 31st, 2016. So the 2021 budget is incorporating the 2017 through 2019 settlement, which is 3 years of increases. So what you're seeing is 3 years of compounded increases, and that by and large is almost the entire increase in the personnel lines, particularly with regards to regular pay, longevity pay, et cetera. Step increases, as Chief Tinty mentioned, are in there, but they're very minor. It's essentially that 3-year contract that's driving all the personnel numbers.
Okay, so these are basically a result of settlements that have been made that apply to prior year. So it's kind of catch up, but the head count is still the same at, I believe, 76, is it, Chief?
76 total personnel for the police department, and going into it with 71 sworn.
Okay, all right. I'm pleasantly surprised that the equipment line goes to zero, where it was over $500,000 last year. That's a big credit. How are you able to do that?
It's not, Doug, it's not as zero. They put in zero, they got it in the capital plan. So what the money they took out of equipment is in the capital plan. So it's taken.
That's my question. Is that where it's going in the capital?
Yes, it's all in the capital plan.
Chief, is that correct? What Tony just said?
Yeah, once we submit the budget, where John decides to put it, that's on him. I'm kind of throwing it back on you, John, to kind of direct it to him. But my understanding is that some of that has been put into capital.
Okay.
I see his lips moving.
Ready.
Yeah, but the amount that's in the capital plan is way less than what's in the line here. So
no, it's not. It's the same exactly what they requested.
120,000.
120,500 is exactly what the request is in the capital plan.
Oh, I was looking
all up. It's the same amount.
All right. So, well, then my question would be, we used fund balance last year to buy a number of vehicles. And I see there's only one vehicle here. So would that number be higher if we hadn't purchased those vehicles with the fund balance monies?
Would these numbers be higher? Are you talking about what's in the capital?
Yeah. I mean, it's jumping ahead a little bit, but I mean, it's, it's taken out of the budget here. We can come back to it if you want to.
I think the issue here, we're seeing a reduction in equipment of $507,000 and balanced in part by a capital budget of only, I say only, $120,000. So there's a big putting the two together, there's a big reduction in equipment.
Yeah, that's
how you're able to do that.
203 and line 211. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Tony, because if you look at lines 203 and 211, that's way more than the 120,000 that's in the capital plan.
Well, what I'm saying is that the revised budget 2020, that's the stuff that they got last year. They requested it last year. What they requested this year and the requested amount is it's been pulled from there and put into a capital plan. Yeah, so
Okay.
we're going to look at the numbers from last year. Yeah, they got their toys last year, if you want to say that. They got $507,000 worth of their equipment. This year, they were asking for $120,000. It was taken out of this line items and it was put into the capital plan. So what they got last year, yes, they're not asking for that same dollar figure, but what they requested they're still requesting it's still in the capital plan. It's just,
Gotcha.
Okay.
I just have a question.
Yes, Tony.
So part-time employees. You got chief, you got school guards and matrons. Is at and crossing guards that has gone down line number 107?
Mm-hmm. Gone down by 10,000, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's just the school and walking crossing guards.
Correct. Yeah.
Now, the other thing is I noticed here was in comp time payout. I don't know. That's down or up 25,000 from last year.
Correct.
Is that part of this settlement?
Correct. Both the 103 overtime and the 108 comp time are reflective of the contractual obligations.
And then my other last question for this thing here, or let's do in 112 part-time employees. What does that consist of, part-time employees?
So we have part-time dispatchers, part-time clerical.
Okay.
The bulk of that is going to be the part-time dispatchers.
Part-time dispatchers. Okay. And I'm assuming that you said this, and this is the last part for here, the education incentives, that's part of the increase as well?
That is correct.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Yes, Michelle.
Hi, good evening, Chief Alderwoman Michelle Hirsch here. I had a good question about line item 414. I see a significant decrease in training, about $30,000. And while I appreciate our trying to cut, the budget down, I think that training is all around is best for everyone's safety. And I was wondering if you could explain why there's such a cut to training.
So initially, the majority of that cut is the reflection of the reduction of the Peaceful Guardian program. We had that built in 2020 as a in-service training. As a result of COVID, that's been that has had to be canceled. As of right now, the reduction does reflect that all new officers would still go through the Peaceful Guardian program, the initial training, but the in-service have to kind of revamp and kind of redesign that one to make it fit. But that was a change in the budget.
I had just another question around training. So there was an article in the paper about the Ulster County sheriffs going to the America USA training on mental health training. That's not included right at the academy. And I'm just curious if you knew what the cost would be. Is that something that would be a cost for our department, or if it's something we're able to do? Is it
So
free?
my understanding is that there's no cost associated, like a tuition cost. It's just the personnel and scheduling. And again, I'd just like to point out, I'm going to say it again, this year was very difficult to try to alleviate any personnel off the regular schedule to go to any type of training, only because we just didn't have the flexibility in that. But Mike, I don't know if you have a number handy. I'm going to say about at least a third of the patrol division has gone through CIT. When that training does come around, we do have officers in it. Lieutenant, if you want to just speak about that real quick.
So yeah, the CIT training, last time it was around, they get hosted locally. So it's a matter of setting it up through the instructors through Office of Mental Health and getting them down. But when we can get that back in the area, we'll definitely host one right at the Academy at the SUNY Ulster Center. We had some problems this year. There was one done locally, but they really had to limit the attendance on all of those type of classes because of social distancing and the size of the classrooms we have. So once that starts to open up a little bit, we'll be looking to bring that CIT back. We had one a couple of years ago. We sent like 14 people through it once. We've also done the mental health first aid is an abbreviated version of the same type of training. We had all of our dispatchers go through that and a number of our younger officers. And then the other one is the mental health first aid for youth. We had some of the SROs going through that. So we're looking at trying to bring them back, but there won't be a direct tuition cost to that. We can host that right at the Academy. Like the chief said, any cost associated will be the backfill to remove officers from the schedule because of the manning minimums. Generally taking a number of people off the schedule at any one time will have overtime implications to fill those shifts.
Right, great, thank you. And just to piggyback on your mentioning COVID, just looking at material and supplies and cleaning and sanitation supplies, and I would suspect that with COVID, you're going to have higher PPE costs and cleaning, facilities, cars, and I just wanted to ask about that and make sure that we're budgeting enough in that area to keep everyone safe and everything sanitized.
Yeah, currently we're meeting the standards. Anything that's recommended, we're meeting. Initially, a lot of the requirements, whether the masks and stuff, we got that above at the state level, so we were able to collect that. We feel we have pretty good, if not very good, disinfecting capability down here that we've already implemented as a result of COVID. We talked about it at the command staff level early on when COVID first hit and what to do. And, we were still responding to calls, and we have been doing quite a bit of this even beforehand. Our officers have always carried personal protective equipment. We're out there all the time. So there is quite a bit of instruction and supplies given to them, fogging the cars, disinfecting at that level, even within our own headquarters. That might have increased, certainly. But as far as the officers' training and requirements to keep themselves safe out there, we've taken that on early on.
We've also had, we haven't seen any of the funding back yet, but we've also submitted to FEMA for some reimbursement on some of the PPE and some of the equipment that we've needed in that regard.
Great, thank you very much.
Chief, line item 471, service contracts are going up by about $40,000. What's in there?
So the service contracts themselves, the itemized breakdown of that, the biggest one is going to be the continuation or the addition, essentially, of the Axon body camera system. The Axon system that we have is the body cameras that the officers wear as part of their patrol response. And that Axon system now carries a regular service cost involved in that. It includes both the WatchGuard system, the Axon body camera system, the tasers, and the evidence.com program, which is more of a video cataloging system.
But haven't we had this ongoing this past year? It's the increase that I'm questioning.
I see John raising his hand. He can better explain how we divided it last year, but it was a 6-month increase.
John? We can't hear you, John.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. In 2020, the system was new, and we only had to budget a half a year of that system. So in the line item in 2020, there was only 6 months of the Axon system. In 2021, obviously, there's a full 12 months.
Okay.
That's the reason for the increase.
Doug,
Yes, Tony Davis.
Tony Davis here. Chief or Lieutenant, what's miscellaneous? What consists of this miscellaneous line item 404? What is miscellaneous?
So miscellaneous, there's two major draws out of the 404 count. The major one being the drug investigative account. That's the essentially, for lack of a better term, the buy monies that we use to do narcotics or special investigations unit drug investigations. A small piece of that, a small percentage, is the prisoner meals. We also code that to the 404, but the majority of that is going to be the funds that are used by special investigations for detective work.
Michelle Hirsch.
Yes. I see that we have quite a bulk of our police officers in step 6. And I was wondering what you may know, Chief, about possible retirements upcoming that before the end of the year or possibly next year.
So we have a couple of people that have shown interest in retirement, that they're eligible to leave. Police department retirement start at 20 years on the job, and some people stay beyond even the 32-year mark. So right now we have approximately 4, possibly 6 people looking to retire next year or eligible to retire. As of right now, we're looking at the replacement as soon as possible. Again, because the lack of any kind of replacement in manpower affects staffing levels, but a slight reduction in the cost. Obviously, a very high senior officer costs substantially more than a newly hired officer. So the additional cost they get involved with a new officer, depending on the civil service list, is the training. In some cases, if the officer does not have any formal police certified training, whether they're pre-employment, phase 2, a combination of both of that and which is the basic course, then that officer has to go through the police academy. Mike oversees that at the college, and essentially it's a close to 6-month program. So for those 6 months, we're paying salary and benefits, but the end result is until they come out of that academy, we're not really getting the benefit short of filling slots.
So do you prioritize hiring someone that's, been through an academy and experienced and has previous work experience so that we don't incur that?
Yes, we have done that. That's correct. To be honest with you, it makes sense, right? There's a substantial cost savings to the city when we look at someone who's put themselves through, and that's usually how the pre-employment works. The pre-employment is a program that we've been part of for many, many years. I dare say back in 2004, I think is when we started doing it. And it allows civilians to go through the majority of the police academy, and then phase 2 makes up that last little part of it, those couple of weeks. So someone who has the wherewithal to put themselves through, shows the initiative, that speaks volumes, right? So not everybody has that opportunity, but when they show up on the list and they're either currently certified police officer working somewhere else or has pre-employment, it does save the city quite a bit of money to hire them first.
Thank you.
Rennie. Unmute, Rennie, please.
Yes. Thanks, Chief. On that same issue, to some degree, you've got these 2 vacant positions I see. So can you tell us the nature of what's going on there?
So the budget as submitted only shows 69 filled spots. Mm-hmm. In the beginning of 2020, we had 71 sworn officers as per the budget. There was the no hiring as a result of COVID and the anticipation of the cost that will be associated, the loss of revenue, the anticipated loss of revenue. So at that point, there was a reduction down to 69. We lost 4 officers in the February, March, April timeframe, only 2 of those positions were replaced. This 71 still shows those 2 vacant spots. Ideally, we would like to fill them if this budget passes, which I hope it does. We'll be able to, essentially, the police commission then can review the list. We're currently doing backgrounds. We'd like to see the vacancies filled immediately within the first week of January. And if those that don't have the police academy need to go, Mike also oversees the part-time class, which begins the second week of January.
Is there any chance that any of the candidates there are candidates of color, candidates who are natives to Kingston, or are you just trying to get anybody who can fill those spots?
No, absolutely. That's certainly considerations. Like I said,
Spanish speaking.
We are limited within the civil service list, but candidates on there that look good to us right now. Just a preliminary review of what they submitted as a background investigation. But I use this again as an opportunity. Our detectives are the ones that do the background investigations on the candidates. Once they take the written exam, they essentially fall in our lap administratively to do the physical fitness exam and then prepare the background investigations. Those background investigations include, basically a thorough review by a detective back here. We're down personnel. Our detectives are kind of taxed already with a lot of the crimes that they're solving. So we're asking a lot, and we're trying to fit as much in as we possibly can to do that. So the process has been taking some time, but we have to be thorough, right? We're talking about a 20 to 32-year investment by the city when we're looking at these candidates, and we got to make sure we pick the right ones.
And then one last question here. These 2 spots at the very end of the employee list, vacant promotion detective. What is that about, please?
Oh, you'll see that the number is about $2,500 as far as listed in the account on the 101. That is what we call the special assignment. When permitted, we try to bring officers up, police officers as a rank, up to the detective division to help out. Essentially, we call it the BSA, the special assignment. They go through kind of a training on how to be a detective. And while they're there, because they do investigative work, they get out of rank pay. So that pay is reflective of that.
Okay. I'm sorry. One last question then. With the 2 vacant positions, if those are filled, is that something that would enable you to look more at some of the community policing procedures, or do you need to get above the 71 number of sworn officers to get more officers out on the street and in the community, out of the cars?
So the 71 would give me a slight bit of elasticity in scheduling, and I mean just a slight bit. Realistically, the contractual requirements we're obligated to follow, and we do. But 71 is a number. We have 1 officer currently out long-term injured. So that, again, although the body, the position is filled, we can't do anything with it. We're actually waiting to see how that pans out with the retirement board. But currently, the 2 would give me some flexibility. If you're asking, then I'll put 6 in there. And I can give you the community policing that you're looking for. We just don't have it, right? The majority of the time, our officers are responding to calls. We are reactive in nature many times. The officers are encouraged to be proactive when they're not answering calls. It's just difficult, to ask them to get out of a car and be tied up for 20, 30 minutes. Sometimes we're taking a risk that sometimes they have to run back to the car. So we're working on a system right now to get them out, to expose themselves more. I've mentioned at some of the other meetings that our goal initially through this partnership that we had with the state police and the sheriff's office kind of had a 3-tier approach. It was the enforcement presence, the visibility component, the investigative component, and then the community policing component or the community engagement component. We're now trying to expand that community engagement component by using KPD officers. So we're trying to work out the details on that. Like I said, very little flexibility in scheduling right now that allows us to do that. This 71 would, but if we hire 2 officers or 2 candidates that need to go to the police academy, you won't see the result of this until the end of July.
Okay, and then a related question for John, which is, so Chief was mentioning the potential there if we were really trying to get more of a community policing approach, you'd have, I think, 4 more people. But John, isn't each position, if we added a position, that would be about 1% added to the budget for each of those officers?
Each position is approximately $106,000. Which is, it's less than 1%, but if you look on page 91 of the budget, the salary schedule, you'll see the 2 vacant police officers, and they are budgeted at $105,810 each.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
That gives you an idea. Sure.
Rita,
Thank you, Doug. Hi, Chief.
Here we go.
Hi. So, just a few questions. So just to follow up on what you said about the collaboration with the sheriff's office and the state police and this 3-tier component that you spoke about. So once that collab is over with, is that something that KPD is still going to be trying to do or will do? That's one question. I guess you can answer them as I go along, the questions.
Okay. So the partnership was as a result of the violence, right? We don't have to go back. We know that's really kind of what stemmed this partnership. We needed the additional resources that the sheriff and the state police could deliver to us. We would like to see it happen again. However, we have to kind of change the mode, right? There were a lot of community concerns. I know you and I have been at the meetings where those concerns have been raised. Initially, we were just trying to, like a better term, put the fire out, right? That's what we're looking to do. So we still serve the community. The members of the community that were at these meetings have said it before. When the state police and the sheriff have to get reassigned somewhere else, KPD is still out there. So that's why we're trying to move more towards a community engagement model instead of an enforcement model. Whether or not that works, we'll have to see. But that is the next step for us, is more of a community engagement.
Okay. Secondly, the officer makeup, you said there's 69 officers right now. Could you just give me a rundown of what that makeup is? How many women, how many people of color, how many Hispanic? Just a rundown.
Sure. So very limited as far as our capability. We have, off the top of my head, 2 Hispanic, 1 African-American male, correct me, Mike, 7 females are employed. I think we're up to 7 now. The rest of them are white males. You can see the makeup is really kind of, some people have said it's not representative of the community that we serve. We understand that. I'm going to let Lieutenant Bonds kind of speak about this, because there's opinions out there sometimes that people have that we're not out there trying to recruit or trying to help. Mike, if you can just talk about the stuff that we've been doing in the last 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and try to create a balance in that makeup.
Yeah, so we definitely recognize that recruitment and retention kind of go hand in hand, and that's one of our biggest shortcomings, is trying to recruit more and more people, and certainly trying to diversify who we recruit. I can just say from a numbers standpoint, our civil service list used to consist of about 300 to 400 people, and our last list was 53 people. So we're not getting a lot of applicants in general. What we've done to try to up that is a multitude of things. One is we attend all the job fairs. We've been to John Jay College, Marist College, the Ulster County Youth Job Fair, Ulster County Community College when they do the job fair. We send the officers out. We set booths up. We worked with the Youth Built. I've done presentations for them right at the academy. Last year, really to try to push the effort even further, we actually did an information session about the job at KPD. We set up at the Common Council chambers, and we did a PowerPoint presentation. Jackie and I went through the benefits, the questions, what the requirements are, showed what the physical fitness requirements are, talked about the college side of it. And the people that attended that were also on a list. So in addition to trying to recruit a little bit through that, we set up a test session. So we broke down the civil service exam, and Officer Ed Schuman and I actually went through the whole civil service test and did a couple-hour class on how to take the civil service to try to get people be able to pass the test, get better grades. And we had really good, everybody that attended that session passed the written exam. So we had good results with that. The downside was we still only 50. Aside from there, I have the benefit of.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Ms. Hannay,
We lost you.
mute yourself,
How about now?
please.
How about now?
Don, can you mute yourself too?
Yeah, it's not me though. It's quiet here.
Press mute. We're just getting some feedback when you're speaking, so I'm just trying to correct that. Thank you. You should be.
I'll have to go upstairs and make sure my kids aren't online right now too. They could be sucking our internet juice out of us. In addition to preparing the students, we did the information sessions. As the academy director, I deal with all the students that come through the police academy. So I went through the last 4 years, which is 8 academy sessions, and sent out recruitment flyers basically saying, hey, the Kingston test is coming up. Here's how you sign up. Here's the information session. So that's really the front that we've been taking on trying to do the recruitment, looking at the college students, doing information sessions, doing classes for students to better prepare them, and really trying to push it. It's not just a Kingston problem, I assure you. Right now, police recruitment is a nationwide problem. I just finished up my master's degree at Marist, and I've done 2 or 3 papers on recruitment and retention and looking at it at a more both state and nationwide level. And the numbers are pretty much the same everywhere. Dutchess County, who tends to pay quite a bit more than we do, their last civil service test, they had for the whole county, 800 or 900 people take the test. The previous year, they had 1,700. So they saw almost a 50% reduction. City of Rochester is the largest city police department in the state. They generally see 2,400 to 2,600 applicants on each test, and they had less than 1,700 on their last test. So it's an industry problem right now. Recruitment is something we're all, and then the issue is when we're all vying, I see all the different police agencies, we're all vying for that same pool of candidates. And that's the pool of candidates shrinking, and everybody's trying to pull the good candidates from that list right now.
And we've had it happen here in Kingston where we've interviewed people, and Mike, who's been part of the process for the command staff, will ask the questions, and essentially they're shopping. They're shopping for the agency that they want to work with. I've never seen it happen before, but we've had candidates ask us, "Can you get me a copy of the contract? I want to see what Kingston offers as compared to the sheriff's office or the city of Poughkeepsie or the town of Poughkeepsie or Putnam County, whatever that might be." So for people to drive 45 minutes, an hour and a half away to work doesn't really change their mind when they're looking at a substantial increase in their salaries in certain locations. So it is difficult. I know from my perspective, we started doing classes. I was part of doing classes for civil service recruitment back in 1995 under Chief Riggins, and we've continued. Every time there's an exam, we have offered classes. We've done it at the Hodge. We've done it at the old BRC. We've done it any place we can accommodate anyone that wants to do it. We've made copies. We've gone through online, PowerPoints. We've met on Saturdays, on Wednesdays, whatever the convenience is. It really is a difficult process. So I just wanted to put that out there since the council's here, that we are doing everything that we can with the resources that we have available to try to engage people, especially that, and that is one topic, as Mike points out, the recruitment and the retention is one topic that the re-envisioning task force is looking at. How do we get people from Kingston to serve Kingston? We're a very small community to begin with. How do we get that to happen? Especially we have candidates that are, the same candidates that look to the state police or look to the sheriff or, they have to be community minded, and there has to be a change or at least an equality in the pay or benefits package in that.
So, Doug, Doug, he's on mute, but. All right, so I have a couple more. If I could just finish my questions and then I'll leave it alone. So since you brought up, how do we get officers from our community to serve our community? how many officers do we have now that actually reside in the city of Kingston?
Now, off the top of my head, without looking at the roster, I'd say 15 to 17. Is that about right, Mike? Yeah, I think about 15 to 17.
I could look that up and get back to you on that, but I don't have that.
So you think like 17 out of 69?
Right.
Okay. And, with some of the requests and the training issues, have you spoken about or discussed maybe trying to get a mental health social worker on the force so that some of the calls that you respond to deal with mental health issues? And it might make sense to actually have a social worker on the force. Have you guys discussed that or talked about it at all?
We have. There's been discussions about kind of folding in mental health services. Currently, we have mobile mental health that we use when they're available. Understand as a county level service, and you may have seen this already. There's a lot of discussion out there at the county level to try to increase those services available. We're having trouble staffing the number of officers to respond to the calls that we're assigned to. Now we have to make this a 24/7 operation and possibly now fold in mental health professionals as well. So it is very difficult. I just don't know how we'll do it short of additional funding and resources. We'll see what happens as a result of both the city's re-envisioning task force, the county level, and a couple of jurisdictions within the county itself. These issues are not just for Kingston. Obviously, you know that. And it is difficult sometimes when officers get there. Mike, correct me, I think there's only 16 to 21 hours of training for mental health awareness for police officers. In some cases, we reach out. The best we can do in some of those cases is to transport the individual with medical personnel to a psychiatric facility that is able to find out what's going on in that person's life. But crisis intervention helps. Mike, if you want to speak a little bit about what we've done here, but the resources are limited. And you mentioned about one person on staff. That would get you 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, maybe. We're looking at a 24/7, 365 operation. So the resources involved in that, it's pretty intense.
Could one of those vacant positions go for a social worker?
So from my perspective, we're still responsible for the enforcement of the law, the proactive work, the reactive work. Right now, we're just able to make ends meet with the contract that we have and the requirements that the city calls upon its police force. We're just barely making that. Like, really, that's why we had to reach out for the sheriff and the state police to give us assistance during the investigations. And so to take that money and put it towards social work, when we're talking about, again, a position for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, what shift do they serve? What happens if they're assigned to days and now the call's on the midnight shift, right? So there's a lot of staffing issues with that. I think, realistically, the number for that type of resource is going to be substantially higher. I don't know if the city is going to end up doing that or if the county, everything's up in the air. Do I see a need for that? Absolutely. We've been using mobile mental health for a long time now. But I do believe that right now our officers are trained to identify when they get there. Oh, this is a mental health issue. Let me address it appropriately. Let me see what resources are out there. Let me call the supervisor, see if we need to transfer.
Okay. Thank you.
Doug, you're
I'm
muted.
reading Doug's lips and he's calling on me, I think. I just was curious if you or the city is looking into any grant funding to help with the mental health side of funding some of these possible positions. I'm seeing if there's something like that out there.
Yeah, we've been looking for it. Hey, you have to understand that these issues are not just unique to Kingston, right? So there's a pool of municipalities out there, police, staff municipalities that are looking for the same things we are. I think a lot of it is, our agency recognizes it, the city elected officials recognizing that it comes down to how do we do this, right? And certainly, the town of Olive or the town of Rochester or Warsaw may have different needs when it comes to that. But as the county seat in the city, we have two hospitals, the schools here. We have unique problems to what we have to solve, and unfortunately, everything costs money. That's what it comes down to. So grant funding would be ideal. I don't know. We haven't seen anything come across our desk yet for that. I know the county's been working on some stuff. We do work very closely with the sheriff's office on these matters, both because of Oracle as for the opioid awareness, and for us because of the need to have officers trained for the psychiatric part of it. So it's a challenge. It really is.
Don?
Hi, this is Don Tollerman. Chief, how much below Dutchess County is our pay? And do you believe if we were at parity, we would compete better for hires?
I don't have the exact numbers. Off the top of my head, I believe close to 15,000. Mike, is that, so I saw the nod. What do you think, right? 15, 20?
Yeah, we've lost officers that leave to go to City of Poughkeepsie and Town of Poughkeepsie in particular. And, we are significantly below where they are. I would say a topped out officer is probably, a 5-year officer is probably about $20,000 less in Kingston than it is in the City of Poughkeepsie or Town of Poughkeepsie.
$25,000 a year less?
About 20,000, yes, sir.
So how do we get anybody?
Hopefully we get people that want to serve the community they're from and are on this side of the river and want to stay on this side of the river.
So I'm new to this process. I guess it's an open question. Is there room to become equal? As an employer, I own some businesses here, and I know that I need to pay at least what my competitors are paying, if not more, to get the best candidates.
It is a challenge, and we've lost a number of young officers the last few years to Dutchess County and to Orange County agencies. It's kind of the nature of the business. There's different agencies have different benefits, and hopefully they see the benefit of serving their community, or we attract people from our immediate area.
Just to point out, not everybody knows, but in case someone listens to the video recording later, but we are a full-time staffed agency. That's it. There's no part-time police here. Part-time officers, advantages and disadvantages, certainly. But for us, there is a need to try to get community-minded officers here in Kingston. On top of the pay, there's also contractual, enticements, benefits that people look at. We did have an officer, a candidate get hired. We offered him the job, said, congratulations, when can you start? And then called me back 2 days later and said, you know what, I'm actually making more money now where I am, and I don't have to worry about being assigned to midnights for 7 years before I can see daylight again. So that's also something, right? With our officers, they're assigned based on seniority. So our day shift officers, for the most part, are senior officers on this department. The junior officers most likely end up on the midnight shift. So depending on how many retirements there are and what kind of makeup we're looking at, you could have an officer hired and they may be on midnights for 7 years. Now just think about that, right? So other agencies offer flexibility in scheduling. So they may not be stuck on midnights for 7 years. It may be a rotational period within that. So there are other contractual obligations that may entice them to go someplace else.
Granted.
Yeah, Don, I like your thinking, but my concern there would be if we bumped up the initial salary, we'd also have to bump up everybody else's salary, right? So, it wouldn't just be increasing the salary for the new hires. We would want to make sure that we compensated all the other officers at the higher pay grades, right?
Thank you, Rennie. I appreciate that comment. And all I want to say to the council and everybody is, in the future, I think we have to find a way to compete. Otherwise, we're just not going to recruit the best there is, and I appreciate that we want local people that are from our community and serve our community. But even those people should be paid what they make in Poughkeepsie or Rhinebeck, in my opinion. So I don't know how we do attack that
that's something that the task force is looking at. So hopefully, I don't know what meeting we're into now. We've been doing it for a couple of weeks now. Lester Strong, as with Peaceful Guardian, is kind of overseeing the re-envisioning task force. And each member has a topic, and I know someone right now is looking at the recruitment retention capability and seeing what we can do. Essentially, comparing what Kingston can offer to what may be an opportunity for other people to come here and work. So again, it's not just money. There's training. There's opportunities beyond that, right? With us, in the past, many years ago, we used to have a bike unit full time. There used to be a boat unit. There had opportunities in investigative capability and crime scene techs, and we just don't have that. As I mentioned before, the flexibility to do some of that stuff anymore. We just don't have the staffing.
Rita?
I mean, just to get back to Don, I wasn't saying, good or bad. I was just saying that would be something we would have to take into consideration. And I would be happy to entertain possibilities there. So something to keep alive and discuss further.
Rita Worthington here. So, Chief, I have a follow-up question on the collaboration with the state police and the sheriff's office. Is the city of Kingston also, are we using any funding for that, or are we paying for any of those services for that collaboration to happen?
No, the city of Kingston, no. The state police and the sheriff are funded in both county, the state. I'm very thankful that we have an exceptional working relationship with both of those agencies and the command staff that oversees them. No, there is no cost. We're not paying the state police, or they're essentially allocating resources. And in fairness to both the state and the county, limited resources, right? They're in the same boat we are. The county had a hiring freeze, the state has a hiring freeze, so we're doing what we can to partner up, and it just made perfect sense. They're professional agencies that reflect our needs as well, and they came in to give us a hand. So I think that's
okay. Okay, thank you.
Are there any other? Yes, Tony Davis.
Yeah, back to the contract. Line item 488, ammunition and training, Chief. You're down 16,000 in that. And how's that going to work?
Well, we're going to give out less bullets. What it comes down to. A lot of it too is we believe, at least for 2021, that we've been able to, lack of a better term, kind of store. We didn't do the training to the level that we normally do every year. Officers weren't able to go out and do both reality-based training, which Mike can speak about to some degree through what we do in-house, and also our regular in-service firearms. COVID kind of put a damper on a lot of things. So we're just finishing up our second in-service training, which was really our first. We weren't able to conduct in-service training the first part of the year. We've postponed everything. And again, because of staffing, we're only able to do one this year. So a lot of the ammunition and supplies that we do on that first in-service set is just stored. You'll see 2022 budget ask for a little bit more in that account for sure.
Mike?
Part of that too, as far as the numbers go, last year we started with 27,500. This year we're asking for the 25,000. It's only a $2,500 reduction. The actual budget shows 41,439. There was transfers into that account for some purchases that we made from other accounts. So that makes that account look bigger. Some of that was actually revenues that were brought in through the training center from the academy, from running the firearms portion. And we exceeded the revenue. So we had to put some of that back into purchasing things like targets and steel for the range and things like that. So we use that account to keep it in line with the ammo.
And one last follow-up question on that, and the equipment rental. It's not dropping. What are you guys renting? What equipment are we renting?
The largest, the bulk of that is going to be our radio system through NICOMCO. That's the largest cost in that 473 account. Almost 100,000 just in that. So that equips every officer with a portable radio, every vehicle, base stations, command level stations. So there's quite a bit of equipment in there. On top of that as well is also Verizon Wireless for the equipment rentals. We have our auto vehicle locators, the GPS in the cars, also a substantial cost when it comes to the equipment rentals.
Are there any other questions on the operating budget? Chief?
Oh, you're muted, Doug.
Okay, if there are no more other questions on the operating budget, Chief, could we move to the capital budget, $120,500 for 4 items? You want to go through that? The dispatch recorder, the interview system, vehicle locator modems, and the vehicle.
Correct. So the motor vehicle, it's no surprise. We're always asking for patrol cars. This year, as a result of COVID, the cars we actually had planned for delivery early on in the spring are just coming through now. So we can kind of offset the vehicle purchases for 2021 as a result of that. We just don't have those vehicles in yet. The one thing that may change, and again, I don't have final numbers on it yet, so you may see us come back to council for some approved funds, is the equipping of those cars, the ones from 2020. So motor vehicles, we're asking for 1. The major equipment, which the capital is the dispatch recorder. Right now, our system is antiquated and end of life. That's the one that records all the 911 dispatch calls. It is it's being held together with some bubble gum and some tape. Kyle and IT, Joel, those guys are doing everything they can to hold it together, but it's in desperate need of replacement. Not even repair at this point, replacement.
Part of that, Chief, quick, if I could just jump in. Part of that with the recording issue is it is older equipment, and we have a lot of challenges with extracting the phone calls for discovery. So with the discovery law changes, any phone call that's pertinent to a case has to be given to the DA's office, to the defense. It's all part of the discovery. And the current system, we're actually wasting a tremendous amount of time recordings over and over and over, trying to find that one piece that we have to take out for the Discovery Act. And the newer systems are designed to be able to catalog the calls a little bit better, and it'll be much more time efficient to have that upgraded system for what we need to do for the discovery stuff.
So that takes care of the dispatch recorder. The second item on the major.
Wait, one question. Sorry. Does that include the recordings from the cameras that the officers wear, or is that separate?
That's separate. That's on the Axon system.
Okay.
The next item is the interview camera system. It should actually read interview room camera system. The system itself that we have right now, again, is antiquated. It's old technology that we've had for years. We have 3 interview rooms within our agency. And as a result, as Mike points out, as a result of discovering some of the new changes in the law at the beginning of the year, the requirement is that everything get recorded. So our system is just not up to par. And in addition to that, as we mentioned before about one of the accounts holding the increase in the Axon system, evidence.com is the video cataloging. What we're proposing is that the new evidence or the interview room system is compatible with, and basically an extension of the evidence.com system. So the cameras that the officers wear as body-worn cameras and the cameras in the interview rooms would essentially be able to be cataloged together. We don't have that capability right now, which is exactly what Mike said before, tremendous amount of time. I can't tell you how much discovery requests we're getting every time there's an arrest. The discovery information has to be put together by our staff. So it's a lot. And the last item on that are the auto vehicle locators, the AVL system. Essentially, they're GPS modems in the patrol cars. They're up for replacement on many of the vehicles. So we're asking for $11,000. The items range between $1,000 and $1,200. And again, they would be put in as replacements and additions.
Tony?
So, Chief, if I heard you right, it was breaking up here. And this police vehicle, and we can hold off on that because you got cars coming in. Is that what you?
No, normally normally this year, what we do is we'd ask for 3 vehicles. We have the alternating of 3, 4. The fact is that the vehicles that are coming in this year are kind of late in the production because of COVID. So we didn't have the benefit of getting them early on. So what we've decided as one of the requests really to kind of reduce our budget and its operating costs, we said, listen, we're going to get these new patrol cars. It'll be at the end of 2020. That should carry us through, but we have the need for one additional vehicle in 2021 to kind of make ends meet.
John Toohey, how would we pay for this capital plan?
Doug, everything on the capital plan is intended to be bonded.
Say again, please.
Everything on a capital plan is intended to be bonded?
Okay, bonded. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Michelle.
Yes, Chief Tindy, just wondering, is this police vehicle going to be a hybrid vehicle?
Yeah.
I do notice that the fuel costs are down in the budget, so I'm wondering if that was connected to having the hybrid vehicles.
The hybrids do contribute, but that's all we're getting now is the Ford SUVs, hybrid models. Correct. Yep.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions, comments on the police budget? Let's move.
Doug, and maybe John.
Yes, Tony.
Davis here. In regard to these capital plans, do we come back and have a discussion on this? And I mean, just like I told, I mentioned it with the DPW, with the wastewater, and in this economic times, I think some of these requests, I know departments will need these things, but at the same time, with this economic times, we might not be able to afford everything that's on this capital plan. So my question is to you as the finance chair, do we come back and discuss these more in depth in the capital plan? Or is it what we say here and then, okay?
No, absolutely. We have we'll come back to the entire capital plan when we're at the wrap-up session.
Okay.
So, of course, yes, John? John?
I was just waiting. Andrea has to unmute and unmute me to speak. So she's trying to keep up. So essentially with the capital plan, I would expect that we will come back to the capital plan as part of the wrap-up meeting, but I think it's imperative to ask the questions that you need to ask their respective department heads at these individual budget meetings. And then if you have follow-up between now and that wrap-up meeting to get those questions asked, it's going to be tough at the wrap-up meeting to discuss the necessity or answer questions on specific capital items that haven't already been asked. So I would encourage everyone to try to get those questions out of the way at these individual meetings, and then we can deliberate with all the information in hand at the actual wrap-up meeting. Thank you.
Michelle. Michelle,
Thank you, Doug.
by Rita.
So I guess my question would be, with these items on the capital plan, each of them, if they were approved and they were ordered January 1st, then like the recording system, the camera system, the locator modems, how long will it take to even get them? Are we approving them to be coming in almost a year?
It depends. A lot of it with the patrol cars, especially now, depends on when we get the order in. A lot of it, they just put us in the queue and that it goes from there. Again, hopefully COVID's behind us. Look at something like that, how far back it set us with the patrol vehicles. Normally equipment like this doesn't take that long. Usually we can get it ordered. I know when we did the Axon body camera system, Mike, it was about a month and a half into it that we started meeting with the reps as far as the rollout. So between the tasers and the actual Axon body cameras, normally equipment like that is relatively easy to get going fast. The vehicles, we're at the mercy of the production, really.
What's the oldest vehicle, like, make that you have, like year And like mileage, what would be the vehicle that would be replaced by this vehicle? What are you looking at?
So for us, the replacements, our patrol cars take a beating. I'll be honest with you. It's a city environment, stop go. We go from an idle to a fast speed, right? So that's the stuff that we're trying to compete with. The brakes, the transmissions, and the engines. Although these are police package vehicles and they have higher outputs for alternators and so on, they do take a vehicle in a city environment that has 70,000 miles is going to look very different than, say, a county or a state vehicle that has 70,000 miles on it, right? So with us, we do go through them. We try to take them off around the 75, 80,000 mile mark. That's when we see the cost for maintenance go up tremendously. At that point, we pull them out of the patrol fleet. The vehicles are wrapped in the color scheme that we currently use, which is the blue-white, and then put into administrative or detective division functions, and they're kind of handed down until essentially they don't run anymore. So my guess right now is that the vehicle that we're asking for will replace close to a 2015 or 2014 model vehicle that's out there. Can you correct me, Mike, on that one?
It would be to replace 113, which is a 2014. That's the oldest in the marked fleet that's still in patrol. We have cars that are probably as old as 04, 05 that are still being used in the once they get taken out of the marked fleet. But the oldest marked fleet one is 113 as a 2014.
We really do try to balance the maintenance costs. If we start replacing transmissions, brakes, axle seals, and so on, I mean, suspension, let's just think about that as well, right? When we're going high speed, low drag through some of these calls, emergency calls, the officers can't be breaking down. So we've been very fortunate. For the last many years, this council has seen the validity of really kind of investing in patrol response on this. If an administrative personnel is going to a training class up in Sardis and the car doesn't make it, they just call for a ride and we do what we have to do. But if an officer gets called to a gun call, they have to make it. They have to get there.
So do we sell the cars? I don't see a revenue line unless I'm not seeing it, Doug. Could you point me?
No, we don't normally sell them. They get handed down from patrol to detective or administration. In some cases, they do get put on Auctions International. That's very limited. To be completely frank with everybody on the council, by the time they get there, they're sold for parts. It doesn't make sense to kind of invest in that. And, honestly, we replace a lot of the components within it, whether it's the laptops in the cars, whether it's the mobile dash cams. We take all that equipment out of the old car and put it into the new vehicle. So there's a lot of recycling going on.
Okay, thank you.
Doug.
Yes, Tony.
Chief, how many cars do we have in the fleet?
Currently, I believe there's 10 assigned patrol.
If you have symptoms of
and each one is about, so the mileage wise, we're looking at about a 3-year window, average 3-year window that patrol cars get used. If one gets involved in something where the suspension takes it off the road, obviously that'll have less miles over that 3 years. But one other car will make up for that because, again, as you all know, it's a 24/7 operation and we're rolling minimally 5-6 cars a shift out every day.
This biggest county balance. Republicans are appealing major ruling by federal court, which said that ballots will drive through voting.
Okay, other questions on the police budget? Sabrina?
Yes. So I just wanted to make sure that we'll be able to, should we have any follow-up questions that we're not asking tonight, that we'll be able to submit those to either you, Chief, or Mike, to you, because I'm bound to have some more questions that I'm not getting in tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always available. Anyone can call, text. You all know that, right? You all have my number. Please do.
Okay.
Okay. Can we move on then to the police training center? No changes, it looks like. Sheet 2, police training session.
Yeah, that revenue is the same. We're anticipating doing the same 2 classes next year. The only thing that would change that for us is if there's, more restrictions placed on us because of COVID or something like that. But I anticipate that those, the same two courses that generate that revenue will be run again next year.
Okay. Questions on training center? Total expense of $7,000, no change. Control of animals, very little change. The only thing I see is just an increase in vehicle maintenance of $1,000. That's the only change that I see in that budget. Correct?
Decrease.
Sorry?
The decrease, we've removed it.
Decrease. Sorry. Yeah. Decrease.
The contracted services still with SPCA?
Right.
Any other questions on control of animals? Well, with that, I think we're through the entire budget and the capital plan. Any final questions, statements, whatever? If not, I thank you, Jid and Mike, for coming again. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And again, feel free to meet with us, call us, text, whatever you need.
And Mike, congratulations on getting through Marist.
Thank you. It was challenging having a full-time job, a part-time job, and 2 teenage kids, but well worth every minute of it.
How long you been working on that?
I started the bachelor program in 2013. I did my bachelor's there. I finished that up in 2017, and then I took a couple months off, and then I rolled right into the MPA program.
Yeah. So now you'll have some more time at home, hopefully.
Yeah,
Suddenly that seems to be getting filled with other things rather quickly, but yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, you're part
Well
of
worth it, yeah.
program, right, Mike?
I'm sorry?
You're part of the fellowship program as well.
I'm doing the Pattern for Progress Fellowship program. I just started a week or so ago, and that's going to run me through June. So I'm not good at having downtime. Last time between my other degrees, I joined a nonprofit board for a couple of years because I'm just not built to sit around.
Okay. Good. Okay, just a reminder, Wednesday night, we review fire department and building code. Wednesday night.
Excellent. Thank you, Doug.